All right. So crisis management is we have an event at a school or university, or there's a significant event in a business, active shooter or significant breach. Crisis management is a key issue. It's estimated that, for a large organization, that it's $100,000 an hour that they're in the midst of a crisis. So if they're in lockdown, people aren't working, they're not being productive. 50% of businesses that experience a decline in reputation and brand after they have a major event. 20% of employees have lost productivity. And in general, it's about 7% of shareholder value drops. Um, so obviously, the first thing to do is to avoid the crisis. Absent that, the next thing is to address the crisis and as efficiently and effectively as possible. Some of those things that we need to do, who's allowed to communicate? How do we lock down? How do we create a safer environment in the midst of whatever the crisis is? How do we adapt to the variety of crises that we might face? And so, with that, Scott, would love to ask you. I mean, you talked earlier about giving better instruction to the team about what they do and don't engage in. That's a way to avoid a crisis. What are some other things that you're doing?
Yeah, that's this is always a challenge, right? So one of the things that my background, for the people that are familiar with FEMA and their fun stuff, I've been through ICS 100, 200, 300, 400, 700, and 800, along with other FEMA courses. And so one of the things we've tried to do is to just incorporate a more systemic model in which we communicate with our employees, making sure that we under kind of the tenets of the command structure, so that whether it's the store manager, assistant manager, service manager, floor manager, they all know that in the event of a crisis, these are the steps that we go through. So really developing that policy and procedure so that people will know what to do, and then following that up with appropriate training to reinforce it. So we've tried to provide better guidelines for our store teams so that they know how to respond in crisis. So that's a big thing. The other things we've done is, unfortunately, we had to do this a few years ago, where we've engaged in some real proactive active shooter training for all employees. I know that I didn't say it early, but thank you for your kind remarks, Corey. And I know that whether it's Spokane Public Schools or other school districts or other businesses, I think everybody's doing the same thing these days.